At the beginning of the 20th century, the Serbian state was an extremely difficult situation, since the kingdom was surrounded by neighbors who wanted to destroy the Serbian statehood. In the east, the main threat to Serbia was the Bulgarian kingdom, with which relations were bad since the two states gained independence. In 1885, contrary to the opinion of Russia and most other great powers, Bulgaria and the autonomous Turkish province of Eastern Rumelia announced their unification. This event triggered the Bulgarian crisis. The Austro-Hungarian Empire was especially worried about this, since the strengthening of Bulgaria threatened Austrian influence in the Balkans. Vienna incited Serbia to enter into a war with the still fragile Principality of Bulgaria, promising Serbia territorial acquisitions in the Western Balkans. However, having entered the war, Serbia, having a more experienced and well-equipped army, suffered a humiliating defeat from the newly formed state, which was one of the reasons for the abdication of the Serbian king Milan Obrenović. In the south, the Serbian state bordered on its main historical enemy, the Ottoman Empire, from which Serbia managed to gain independence in 1878. However, a large part of the territories inhabited by the Serbs remained under the control of Istanbul, and their liberation is a priority foreign policy task for the kingdom. No less dangerous for Belgrade was the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which wanted to establish complete and unconditional control over the Balkan Peninsula. In addition to foreign political problems, Serbia remained an undeveloped agricultural country, with weak industry and a predominantly agricultural economy. And will the Serbian monarch Peter be able to pull the country out of such a difficult situation? Or will the weakness of the ruling dynasty provoke political unrest in the country, as a result of which more radical-minded forces will come to power in Belgrade? And under war strict control, Serbia will be able to claim its true greatness. And what awaits Serbia in the coming years? So, we will find this out right now. And before we start, I would like to say thank you to everyone who liked this video and subscribe to my channel. Well, now let's begin. As mentioned earlier, Serbia at the time of 1910 was an extremely deplorable situation, both from an economic and foreign policy point of view. This was especially reflected in the Serbian army, which had a major shortage of infantry weapons and serious problems with artillery. Looking at the deteriorating situation in the kingdom, the possibility of overthrowing the monarch to establish a military dictatorship that could ensure order in the kingdom was increasingly discussed within the army. Various right-wing radical formations increasingly floated around within the military structure of Serbia, which led to the creation of the secret nationalist organization called the Black Hand. The main objective of this radical Serbian officer group was the creation of the strong South Slavic state on the Balkan Peninsula. The ideas of the Black Hand about greatness of the Serbian state and the unification of Southern Slavs quickly found support not only among the common people and ordinary military, but also among the Serbian generals, which gave even greater confidence in the success of the upcoming coup. By the middle of the year, the leadership of the Black Hand began to form combat units that will deal the main blow to the forces loyal to the ruling dynasty. By the beginning of 1911, the organization consisted of at least 20,000 people, among whom were veterans of previous conflicts, officers, generals, and even some officials. For the final blow, it remained to wait for the right moment, which was the Italian invasion of Libya, controlled by the Ottoman Empire. The military elite demanded that King Peter launch an invasion of the Balkan territories of the Ottoman Empire, taking advantage of the element of surprise. In addition, Istanbul had to send a large number of divisions to protect its African colonies. However, the Serbian monarch rejected the general's demand, which was the beginning of the end of his rule. Early on the morning of October 15th, Black Hand troops began seizing administrations in major cities of the country, encountering minimal resistance from royalist troops. The main events took place in the capital, where a detachment under the leadership of the head of the Black Hand organization, Dragutin Dmitrievich, was able to storm the royal palace and capture the royal family, which was the actual end of the coup and the beginning of the era of the military junta in Serbia, which began with the foreign foreign policy crisis caused by the overthrow of the royal family. The military coup in Serbia greatly worried the Russian Tsar Nicholas II. The new government needed to resolve the issue with the royal family as quickly as possible, so as not to spoil relations with Russia, which was Serbia's main ally in Europe. Fortunately, leader of the Black Hand managed to come to an agreement with the son of a former monarch. King Alexander will lead Serbia, but only formally. The government of military junta will have real power and make all important decisions for Serbia. And although the military managed to take power into their own hands, it was necessary to take measures to strengthen it, since many supporters of the former king remained in the country, and therefore the first decree of the new government was to expand the powers of the national police and introduce total censorship in the kingdom. From now on, any leftists and royalist movements will be brutally suppressed by counterintelligence forces and police, and the press will also be subject to strict censorship. This decision was necessary to establish stability in the state and strengthen the power of the new government. The establishment of an iron order allowed the new government to begin implementing much-needed reforms for Serbia, primarily in the industrial sector, because the kingdom still remained an agricultural country. Strengthening of industrial power will allow us to increase the production of military products, which will significantly strengthen the armed forces of the kingdom by equipping our army with modern rifles and artillery. That is why it was decided to abandon the curse of past years and weaken support for rural farms. A very serious problem in the country was logistics, or rather a small number of railway tracks and locomotives, which would greatly slow down the process of upcoming industrialization. To solve this problem, a considerable amount of money was allocated from the budget for the purchase of transport trains in European countries, primarily in the Russian Empire, which provided Serbia with several dozen locomotives at a friendly price. In addition to the purchase of trains, expansion and construction of new railway lines began in the northern, most industrialized part of the country. However, it will take years to create a truly strong industrial base in Serbia due to prevailing domestic political and economic factors. While to ensure the country's security, the new government needs to act now. For this, the military government developed a strategy for conducting foreign policy on the peninsula, which was based on the fact that Serbia's main task for the coming decades was to unite all Slavic states in the Balkans under its flag, in order to counter all kinds of military threats, primarily the Ottoman Empire. To increase Serbian influence in neighboring countries and regions inhabited by Slavs, the formation of Black Hand cells began, the main task of which was propaganda and recruitment among the oppressed Orthodox population in Austro-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. Particular attention was paid to the internal political situation in Montenegro, since the Montenegrin people were culturally closest to the Serbian people. In addition to shadow influence, trade turnover between the two states is increasing. Thanks to the development of industry, Serbia supplied large quantities of industrial goods, as well as weapons, to Montenegro. The domination of Serbian goods led to an almost complete economic dependence of the small principality on Belgrade, and the developed underground network organized by the Black Hand prepared the ground for a coup in the capital of Montenegro, which did not take long to wait. And soon the Montenegrin Prince Nikola I was forced to recognize the vassalage of his state from the Serbian kingdom. However, Serbia and Montenegro didn't have a common border, because for centuries Turkey controlled territories in the Balkans, inhabited by Slavic peoples, and one of the main tasks for Belgrade was to liberate these territories from the Ottoman Empire. The recent defeat in Libya fully demonstrated the military weakness of the sick men of Europe. However, for the upcoming Serbian offensive, it was necessary to reform the army and arm the divisions with modern weapons, as well as to form new divisions to oppose the Ottomans. To strengthen the army, the Serbian government began retraining and forming new military units because to confront the Ottoman Empire it required a large and strong army. In addition to the formation of new units and rearmament of existing ones, the Serbian generals changed the army doctrine towards more mobile combat tactics. And then the army of the kingdom was prepared, and the offensive plan was agreed upon with the head of state. The Serbian divisions crossed the border with the Ottoman Empire. Without encountering serious resistance, Serbian and Montenegrin troops managed in a relatively short time to occupy such large cities as Pristina, Novi Pazar and Skopje, where the military of two countries were greeted as liberators. And only in Albania and southern Macedonia did Serbian troops encounter organized resistance from Turkish units. But even the approaching Ottoman division could not stop the offensive of the Serbian army, and by the end of May all of southern Serbia, northern Macedonia and most of Albania were under the control of Belgrade. Belgrade's actions did not go unnoticed, and the whole Europe spoke about the new conflict in the Balkans. Probably Russia supported Serbia by sending several thousand rifles and the military advisors to coordinate the Serbian offensive. In early June, Bulgaria, together with Greece, announced the beginning of the intervention on the lands of the Ottoman Empire, with the purpose of their liberation. The Bulgarian troops began their offensive in South Rumelia, intending to push the Turkish troops towards the coast in order to divide the enemy force in two, while the Greek army began to move towards the Serbian troops. As a result, the Turkish units were pressed against the Greek border and cut off from the port of Saloniki, forcing a huge number of Turkish divisions into a complete encirclement with no supplies. And soon the city was occupied by Serbian troops. Meanwhile, the Bulgarian army managed to drive the Turks out of Rumelia and approach the Ottoman capital. Istanbul, aware of its deadlock, accepted its surrender to set the surrounded military units. The peace conference held in London established peace and new borders on the peninsula. As a result of the Treaty of London, Serbia is the state that made the greatest contribution to the victory over the Ottoman Empire, acquired new territories that included all of the southern Serbia, Kosovo, northern and eastern Macedonia. Albania, which fell under Belgrade's control during the war, was of great strategic importance to the kingdom. However, Italy and Austro-Hungary disagreed with the occupation of Albania and demanded its independence from Serbia. The Principality of Montenegro acquired new lands in the north at the end of the conflict, while Greece acquired territories in southern Epirus and central Macedonia. The Bulgarian Tsar Ferdinand did not agree to the results of the conference, demanding complete control over the lands of Macedonia, which were under the control of Serbia. Absolutely all political experts were confident that peace on the Balkan Peninsula would not last long, and that soon a new bloody war would break out in the region for the distribution of land between the Balkan states. And what awaits Serbia in the future, you will find out in the next video. Like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting HOI4 videos. Have a nice day, see you soon guys.